Have you ever wondered, what does a game designer really do? Do they control the creation of every single feature within game? Is their role similar to the creative lead? Or is this someone who just imagines any type of game that they want to develop and tell programmers to do it? Well, today we're going to reveal the secrets. The role of a game designer within the AAA industry can be somewhat ambiguous. Often the title is divided into multiple sub-design roles, each with its own specific responsibility. However, regardless of the specific role itself, game designers always prioritize the player experience and aim to make decisions that result in enjoyable gameplay. Game design is a highly creative and iterative process that involves a great deal of research, brainstorming, documentation, and refinement. Designers strive to improve on mechanics from previous titles, combine genres to create unique experiences, or innovate completely new systems. Throughout development, they work to polish gameplay elements to the highest possible standard. The main duty of a video game designer involves conceptualizing and developing various aspects of a video game, such as its storyline, scenarios, levels, character progression, and user interfaces. This typically includes the use of computer software to add computer scripting that generates in-game events, objects, mechanics, and characters for players to interact with. In addition to this, video game designers could also cross into the realm of programming, as they will need to use various programming languages to design characters, systems, and levels. It's essential for them to use this during the concept stage, with the fast and rapid iteration to come up with a proof of concept which is fun. Before the beginning of a new project, the design team generally receives design briefs from creative leads that outline a specific vision for a game. These briefs typically include details such as the brief story structure, artistic vision, genre, overall player experience, and specific emotions that the player should feel. Pre-production, being the first of the three primary stages, typically demands the most creative thinking. Designers often anticipate this phase as it provides them with the opportunity to generate new ideas quickly and can be highly satisfying and enjoyable. The initial phase of game design involves creating fundamental concepts and drafting design documents that outline the future of the game. As such, it's crucial to constantly question every decision being made, such as whether a newly added mechanic is fun, fits the game's world, is balanced and user-friendly, and determines the appropriate timing for its introduction. Research is a crucial aspect of the game design process, as it assists in discovering potential tools to utilize, selecting genres, generating ideas, and so much more. However, the significance of the research is often overlooked until it's too late in the development process by many individuals. Additionally, it is essential to familiarize oneself with existing games in the market. Once research is done, that's when you can move on to the prototyping phase. In the prototyping phase of video game development, teams evaluate not only whether the core mechanic of the game function properly, but also whether they can be modified or enhanced to make the game content more enjoyable. What is intriguing about this process is that it does not solely occur within a digital environment. Some aspects of video game development prototyping involve refining core concepts on paper. After prototyping, video game development typically becomes more polished as the core design mechanics are established early on. Certain ideas may seem excellent on paper, but not be fulfilling or functional when actually translated into a digital format, which highlights the importance of the prototyping stage. With the initial concept in place, this is where you can move on to the beginning of production. The game designer will be responsible for the core game design document, which is a comprehensive document that outlines every aspect of the game's design to a high degree. This document typically includes the primary player interactions and major gameplay systems. This includes the levels, combat, abilities, inventory, AI, unit types, and pretty much everything that you will see within the final product. It is essential to note down that the game design document is a living document and is highly dynamic. It can be difficult to plan a game from the very beginning of the initial idea to the final form. This is why developers go through an iterative process, where they will implement, test, receive feedback, and then go back through that stage again, making changes every step of the way. This is also the point in which this design document is handed out to the different areas of the game development team. Now, this is different for every single studio, from indie all the way to AAA, as every studio has a completely different system and they will focus more heavily in certain areas than others. The design document will be passed over to the programmers, but it will also be pushed over to the character designers, system designers, level designers, the UI designers, you name it. If there's designers for a team within your studio, this is where the design document will go over to them so they can work on their jobs independently. But as said, because the design document is a living, breathing thing which is constantly evolving, it means communication is vital across all design teams, no matter their speciality. The second, that there is a new way of doing things because it is more efficient or because it's more enjoyable for the player, it needs to go down within the design document, but it also needs to be communicated with the rest of the team. When entering into production, this is the longest and busiest stage of the game development pipeline. This is the moment where the team will be at its very largest, and it could last anywhere between 1 to 3 years, some games being even longer. And game designers play a crucial role during this phase because they're the glue that sticks everything together. They're the bridge between every moving component. The various different sub-designers, writers, artists, programmers, and even the marketing team. They also make sure and do quality control to make sure that the game delivers as intended to that original experience, providing unique goals, challenges, and rule sets. Whilst programmers themselves build the mechanics and functions, game designers define their parameters, such as the level of difficulty, enemies, and challenges for the player to overcome. And then the quality assurance teams come into place to generate playtesting documentation, which the game designers analyze and use to modify and tweak the game accordingly for their specific target audience. Once done to an extensive level, eventually the game will enter post-production. This is the final phase of game development, consisting of the 3 main milestones that focus on evaluating, fixing, and polishing the game before its release. Alpha, the first milestone, is often referred to as feature complete, meaning that all initial features for the game have been created, including art, visual effects, mechanics, sounds, levels, and user interface functionality. They're all done. However, the team's work is far from over, as the game or experience breaking bugs and balance issues still persist. They need to be addressed before moving forward. Game designers will overlook this, going all the way up to the beta phase. Once the game starts building towards the beta, this is known as the final polishing stage. This is just one final check where game designers ensure that the game is ready for release by fixing any remaining bugs and refining the gameplay experience. And once a game is finally released, the work still is not done, because during the alpha as well as beta, QA will find many bugs, and designers will use the document to tell the relevant teams in order to fix those issues. But even by the time a game releases, because of that iterative process, there's simply some things that can't be tested, not until full release, in which it somewhat becomes mayhem as you go through this whole process, but so much quicker, and you've got players knocking on your door telling you that there are major problems with your game that you've spent years working on. And most likely, as a designer, not only are you trying to overlook the problems which the current game is facing, and you're trying to get the relevant teams to fix them, you're still also planning for the future. What future content is going to be available for the game that you've just released? What DLC are you going to push? Is it going to be premium? Is it going to be something free but has a different monetization on the back? And what mechanics are you going to include? It becomes this whole process again, but on a slightly smaller scale. To reiterate, game design on its own is a massive discipline, which in AAA is focused on specialized positions. Within indie studios, typically a game designer will be wearing multiple hats. But with AAA, since there's a budget available, talking into the millions, it makes a lot more sense for you to get the very best of the best for each individual job. But that doesn't mean that development or design itself gets any easier. And don't believe me? Maybe you should go and check out our previous video where we highlight the harsh reality of being a game developer. Even though it's a dream come true for many, including us here, there's also loads which have to face reality. It's nothing like people expect.